Coming up on the Booth Review, we're looking for some solutions after the loss to Seattle.
Yeah, what can we do to fix this thing?
And we're going to look ahead to the Lions game. We might even have to let some dogs out. It's time to go smash mouth.
Oh, yeah. Wait till you hear how smash mouth it gets with London on the Booth Review next. Welcome into the latest edition of the Booth Review podcast. We're brought to you by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC, and we are in the Big Bear AI Command Center studio. I'm Bram Weinstein with London Fletcher and Logan Paulsen, and that was ugly, really ugly last night.
It was, man. I don't like horror movies.
You don't like being scared?
That was a horror movie, man, last night. Just to be honest with you, no, Halloween was on Friday night, but man, it seemed like that last night was a horror movie, man. Just anything that could go wrong seemed to go wrong, and I was quite frankly very surprised by the performance.
Yeah. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said this on the broadcast a ton, and I think it's really spot on. It's when injuries pile up, when things aren't going well, like you really have to like tighten the screws, and the attention to detail has to go through the roof. And like I've been on some bad football teams, and like the margin for error is tight. So like you have to create turnovers, you have to find ways to get explosive plays, you have to find ways to stop explosive plays, and it really just was Seattle did all that stuff. And so Washington wasn't able to get that done. And so, when you turn the football over, when you give up explosives, I don't care how talented you are, it's hard to win football games, but you knew the Seattle team was good. You knew their defense was good. You knew the margin for error was going to be so small. And so the fact that they didn't execute the way they needed to, I think is, again, it's really frustrating. It's disappointing. It's scary in a lot of ways because there's a lot of like, where do we go from here type conversations. But again, like that's kind of my initial thoughts after the game.
I want to go back to something you just said, which is, and I think this is where expectations come in a little bit off of last year and what this team is. And I agree, the injuries are a big part of the story, but you just said, I've played on bad football teams before. Mm-hmm. I did not think this was going to be one of them this year. They played like one, though, last night, for sure. And there's probably a lot of reasons for it, and we're going to go through a lot of it. But I think that's maybe the hardest part of this whole thing. If you expect, this is a rebuilding year, or this is going to be tough to get to a place that you want to get to, I know that's not what the goals of this team were. And I think that's why I'm so surprised today. Not that they lost to a good team with all the injuries they have, but how they lost and how thoroughly they were beaten last night.
Yeah, I mean, Fletch, I don't know. It's interesting. Like I go back and I kind of was reviewing some notes from shows, like preview shows we were doing at the beginning of the year. And Vegas had this team winning 7 games, So like I think there are a lot of people that kind of understood what happened last year. And like, people talk about this team being a lucky team last year, and like that piece that the Wall Street Journal put out. I know fans don't want to hear that. There's all these opportunities for regression in the roster, in just statistical efficiency. And so, we're sitting here, and I think, did I think it was going to be this bad? No, but was this in the cards in terms of possibility? Yeah. And then you add the injuries into that. I think it kind of leads you to say, well, maybe some of those things that we're going to regress even further because they're not as talented. And again, like I'm not making an excuse, but like this was something that a lot of people thought who do this for a living was a possibility.
Well, because they converted every fourth down. They were the best at that. They won every game at the end.
87%, 87% fourth down conversion.
6 straight games winning at the buzzer. That's, historically unusual, let alone for any team. Still, that said, the NFL maybe didn't agree with Vegas to the point of that they put them in prime time and standalone games a million times.
And I don't agree with Vegas either, because Vegas didn't know that we were going to have all these injuries. You had 3 defensive ends injured, three of your top receivers injured at some point in time, and they didn't know that everything was going to play out during the offseason the way it played out. They had no idea that those things were going to take place. If anything, you look at Jayden Daniels coming off the fantastic rookie season that he had, you would think he's going to get better as a second-year player. He's seen more defense. He's had another offseason to go through NFL practices and just continue to work on his craft. They went out, they traded for a Deebo Samuel. You trade for a Larry Tunsil. You draft Josh Conley in the first round. That, from a talent standpoint, when you looked at this roster on paper at the beginning of the season, just everything, all things equal, compared, this roster was better than last year's roster from a talent standpoint. I don't see how you can say Vegas could say, hey, this is a 7-win team. That wasn't the expectation from the front office, from the head coaches, from the players. Things haven't gone our way. We've had some things that, from an injury standpoint, that haven't gone our way. But we also have not played good football. So let's talk about that. We have not played good enough, consistently enough, to win those ball games.
But I also think too, Fletch, like, Vegas puts that line in, and a lot of it has to do with the Commanders, the roster, the things you just mentioned, but it's also strength of schedule, strength of opponent. And we're playing different teams this year, like, no doubt about it. Like, these are different caliber football teams. And again, like last year, we got a couple backup quarterbacks that kind of helped us out in terms of winning. And this is not to relitigate the offseason. This is not to, because I do agree with everything you said. Like, they went out, they made moves, they made a push for it. Mm-hmm. And I do think they need to play better football, but I do think kind of putting some context on this season and why it's looked so different than I think a lot of people expected, I think is important. And again, like, ultimately you got to play good ball, right? Yes. And did they play good enough ball yesterday? Like, no, right? And I think I think Dan Quinn talked about it in his presser, but I just wanted to bring up the Vegas point because there were a lot of people that thought this was a possibility.
Yeah, I kind of lean where London is. I don't think you trade for Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel if you don't think you have an opportunity to win immediately. Right. And I think this is how they were thinking about it, and it didn't quite work out. And to your point, there were a lot of people that looked at this and said, there's no way they replicate that again. Not at least, like, statistically, what they did was an aberration. And they're playing a harder schedule. There's going to be a reversion to the mean. It's just, that's math. Like, there's just no chance they're going to do this again. However, losing 3 straight games by 20 plus points, that's I didn't think that was this team. And, like, there are a lot of reasons why this is happening, but this kind of goes back to, I think, a beginning point, which is I really didn't think this is a bad team coming into the season, but they're playing one right now.
I saw this as hey, we weren't going to necessarily win 12 games this season, but we would be a better football team.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, maybe we win 10 games, but we're a better football team because you mentioned, hey, a lot of those games we won last year, 6 games you mentioned, 6 straight games where come down to final possession, last play in some instances.
Last play.
Hail Mary, all those types of things. Say half of those go our way, half don't go our way this season. Ball hasn't bounced our way. So, but all that being said, I personally thought 10 wins was our floor.
Yeah.
And, maybe they can go on a historic run or a great run and get to 10, but just the way, we're not going to get to 10 wins playing the way we're playing now. I mean, we'd be lucky to get to 5 wins playing the way we're playing right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think, just watching the film and, like, there's stuff on offense, there's stuff on defense, there's stuff on teams. And again, like, good football teams, they play a clean brand of football. That's penalty free, it's assignment sound. Like, we had a bunch of false starts yesterday offensively that were really frustrating. They came in big moments, big turnovers on teams, which has been a really solid staple for us. So there's a lot of things, I think, that looking at it, you're like, man, like what Fletcher's talking about. You can talk about statistical regressions, you can talk about the state of the roster, but ultimately, I think it's about looking at the man in the mirror on Monday.
I was sometimes you go back and I went and watched the horror movie again this morning. So I'm looking at the film, and at one point we're down 7-0. Offense had some success moving the ball a little bit, and then you get the penalties, things like that, stymie a drive, stall a drive. And there was one point, I think it was early in the second quarter. Last time the offense, they punted, we were down 7-0. The next time they took the field, we were down 21-0.
Yeah. I mean, what was it, 11 seconds between scores or something? 12 seconds between?
That's tough.
But I think the other thing, though, is when teams score quickly, it gives you more time to score. Like, the game is still in.
Yes.
It's just, at that moment, I remember, like, being on the broadcast with you guys thinking, I had this thought, I was like, I don't know if they've got enough juice at this point to overcome this. And again, last year you would kind of say, oh, for sure. Jayden Daniels out there, they'll find a way to get it done, but it feels different.
You mentioned that the margin of error being extremely small. Our margin of error right now is about paper thin.
Yeah.
Just because of the injuries. We have to play, you're not going to have to play a perfect game, but we can't have turnovers. We can't give up explosives. We can't miss assignments. We have to make the team beat us. They have to earn everything they do. And then we also can't beat ourselves with a false start, with a drop pass or a missed assignment on a block, something like that, or whatever the case may be. Our margin of error, we don't have the horses right now to have those type of mistakes.
Yeah, and again, I think the not perfect thing is a good way to describe it, because it's just like we need to block, tackle, and catch the football.
Yes.
And like when you don't do those things, it becomes really hard to win football games, especially when you're not as talented as other teams. And again, like when that margin for error is paper thin, and I've been on teams like this, like every mistake, every issue is something that you feel acutely. Like when you're on offense, you're like, oh man.
You feel that pressure.
Oh my gosh.
You give up a touchdown as a defense. I'll give you a great example. And I've shared this, I feel like, before. Rams, 99 Rams. Youngest team in football, defense plays great. The next season, we came back and we were like a top 10 defense in a lot of categories. Points, rushing, turnovers. I mean, some categories, we were number 1, number 2. The next year, basically the same players, we went to like 30th in a lot of the categories. And we were giving up a lot of big plays, couldn't get to the quarterback the same way, wasn't getting the turnovers. And you get 4 or 5 games in the season, and a touchdown that you give up in week 6 in the first quarter just feels like, oh my goodness, like all this stuff, just the previous 5, 6 games, it just starts to, you feel that snowball, like, man, here we go again. And it might just be at 7 points in the first quarter. You're just like, all right, we're not going to stop anybody today. So I'm sure there's a lot of pressure, especially from a defensive standpoint. Like, man, if we give up a play.
Yeah, let's talk about the defense a little bit. I mean, that went sideways last night early. Sam Darnold had a perfect passer rating in the first half. He did not throw an incompletion. The vast majority of the throws were to literally wide open people. It wasn't as if they were making these crazy catches or these contested catches. What did you make? He was barely pressured last night. What did you just make in general of how the defense played against Seattle's offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Fletcher was talking about, I think when you are a little bit undermanned, and again, that's not an indictment of the guys playing necessarily, but when you're banged up, you got guys filling into new roles. You got to play really assignment sound football. And I think the thing that jumps out when you're watching the film is on first, second down, there's some issues with the run fit. So a 3-yard run becomes a 6-yard run. And that might not show up in the stat sheet, but now you're in 2nd and 4, right? Yeah. So the play action pass is still on the table. We're able to get a boot out of the pocket. We lose contain on the quarterback. We're able to hit a shot down the field. The guy misses the tackle. Like the guy in coverage is, it just is one of those mistakes is bad. But then to make 3 of them on a play is like just unacceptable, I think. And again, I'm not saying anything to be critical. I know what they're doing is really hard. I know it's tough, but like to play winning football on the defensive side, like you gotta execute. Mm-hmm. And like to me, there's something to be said for like, this is something I say with my high school kids. It's like, if you just be where you're supposed to be, you give us a shot. And Fletcher was talking about alignment, assignment, execution. If you align and assign correctly, like you give your team a shot. You're in position to make the play. Yes. Sometimes they're not even in position to make the play at this point, which is the thing that is frustrating. And again, you got to give credit to Seattle, I think, in some respects, because that's a well-coached, well-executed football team that's coming off a bye, that does a lot of stuff with the motions and the shifts that create kind of like one example that comes to mind. They're in a 2-by-2. They motion the tight end over. They switch the side of the back. The switching the tight end, the switching the back, that changes coverage rules, that changes coverage responsibilities, that changes the check you're going to make in that moment. So like they did some good stuff, but again, I think the stuff that we can control or we could control, we just didn't control at a high level. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I thought the run game was the issue early in that ball game. Even though Sam was, had a perfect passer rating, we didn't knock the run game out early. I think at one point, man, their backs were averaging about 6.2, 6.7 yards per.
They ended up under 4, but they ran the ball a ton at the end where they were really just running the clock.
Exactly. Yeah. But early, maybe even in the first quarter, they were averaging about 6.2 or 6.7 yards per carry. It's hard to play defense like that. You have to knock something out. So you knock the run out. Now we can figure out ways to take away the pass, but the inability to get pressure on the quarterback, because there are times where the coverage was good initially.
Yeah.
but he has so much time to go from 1 to 2 to 3 reads, and eventually, especially if you're playing zone coverage, those zones get spreaded. These receivers are going to find open spots, open holes in the windows, in the zones, man-to-man coverage. Sometimes these guys make plays too. Jackson Smith and Jigba, if you didn't know who he was beforehand, and we probably don't know a lot about him on the East Coast, that kid can play.
Yeah.
But again, let's make them earn everything they get. But I think up front, we didn't stop the run. Run fits were bad at times, and didn't get any pressure on Sam Darnold.
And I think when you compare the Commanders' offense to the Seattle offense, and you watch Jayden Daniels with the pressure, and there's a crazy high pressure rate, all the good plays come when he's able to extend. He's able to get out of the pocket. They're able to kind of break those zones. The pass protection for Seattle did that for him, right?
Yes.
They're able, and again, they did a good job of kind of calling play action shots. They moved the pocket a little bit. They had a good feel for how we were going to play those keepers and boots, and Sam Darnold did a great job kind of hitting those easy buttons. And again, the run game is what allowed them in large part to do that because they're an advantageous down and distance. The other thing is like coming to the game, I think I was talking to you about it, maybe Bram, like one of the things is like they were not super efficient running the football.
Yeah.
So you kind of had this thing in your back pocket where you're like, they're going to do it. They're going to give you 15 to 20 plays where it's just running to darkness. And then you're in 2nd and 10, you're in 2nd and 9.
Yeah.
Can you capitalize? And unfortunately, like you were just talking about, Fletch, like you weren't able to capitalize on those moments, right? And I think that was the thing that really jumped out is like they kind of were giving you that pitch, you couldn't hit it, and then you compounded not hitting it by missing some other stuff down the field, which was really frustrating.
Yeah, it's interesting with the run game. They actually run the ball about 50% of the time, which is one of the highest rates in the NFL.
It is the highest, right?
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken.
Second
I think it was
Buffalo,
2 coming in.
Yeah,
Buffalo's one there too.
Maybe.
But it's highest by percentage. Am I tripping on that?
No, Buffalo's like 50%.
I see, they're
Seattle was
like
like
47.
49.
Yeah.
A little under
I
40.
gotcha.
And so they run the ball a lot, but to your point, like it wasn't overly effective. They were just doing it consistently over and over. Walker's outstanding when he gets to the edge. That seems to be his best attribute. He can get to the outside, shows a lot of speed, but in the middle of the line, they stick with it. They stick with it. And I think to your point, London, they were just sticking with it. It was dominant early, and it just opened literally everything up.
It really did. And it was just looking at Seattle's offense in the run game, and I'm looking at Walker, and he averages about going into our game. He was averaging almost 4.5 per carry.
Yeah.
So he was really good. The other backs were bringing that down. Where they were averaging about 3.7.
They share the load there. They don't profile anybody.
They were
anymore.
averaging 3.7 as a team, but right out the gate, attack the edge with a little flip pass. We lose contain on that edge. Don't hold the edge. You have to do that. This is football 101.
It's crazy because like you were talking about one of the players losing an edge, and then the play before is a pin pull.
Yeah.
And he's doing a good job, and then another player tries to undercut a block and picks the end. And it was funny to watch this, not funny, sad maybe, that every play there was kind of like, oh, you made a mistake? I'm going to make a mistake now. Oh, you're going to make a mistake? Then it's Fletcher's turn. Like, and it just kind of going down the list like that was, again, like it just.
Yeah. There was another one Walker got it, maybe about a 7-yard game. There's a hold on the end, defensive end. They don't call it. I mean, that's going to happen. But you have to put yourself in a position to where you show so much color that he doesn't feel like he can get it, or
and even
it's obvious.
The corner misfits that one too. Like
he goes underneath the block. So the only way, and we'll get into solving these problems later, but the margin of error, you have to be so exact if you're going to give yourself a chance to win that down and win that series and win the game.
Well, and it goes back to that first drive. Like they were in, I think it was 2nd and 25 or 1st and 25.
1st and 25.
And so as a defense, you're like, we gotta get this one going. And kudos to Seattle, like great sequence of play calls, like formationally, they did some really good stuff. Like, you know, as a guy that likes watching offense, they did some really good stuff.
You love that type of stuff.
But you got to figure out a way in 1st and 25 to come out on top of that thing. And then if you get them to punt in that situation, like the dynamic of the game switches entirely. It gets it back to the offense, good field position.
Man, go to the offense real quick, and I know we didn't touch. There was a play, I think it was the second play of the game. We run a boot, and Senate is wide open on a sail route.
Right.
But there's Jayden gets pressured, like the defense. Seattle brought 5, and there's a little chip block on him, and then a release, tight end release. But Jayden doesn't have a chance to get out, get set,
so much pressure.
Find set. I mean, he was wide open. He's going to, at worst, we're going to have the ball on the 30-yard line to Seattle. This is the second play of the game. First play of the game, I think Debo's open on the sail as well. But again, they do a good job of containing, not letting him get to that edge. So offensively, you're looking at like, dang, we got explosives to start the game, but they did a good job of taking that away, getting pressure on him, and Jayden can't get it. He has to run the football.
And it was just a great plan, I thought, too, by them. Like, instead of like having that backside end pursuit of the ball, like he's pursuing to the quarterback, and the Washington Commanders, they're pursuing to the ball, which is a normal way to handle a keeper. But Sam Darnold gets to the perimeter. And so then it's like that 3-level throw. I have time. I can see it. I can hit the corner. I can hit the cross. I can hit the flat. And and that's the beauty of those plays, is like you're taking people out of the thing. And so just the plan that they had defensively, the athletes they had defensively, it was just a different ball of wax. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But again, just the comparing the two of them was so different.
There were 5 different receivers that averaged at least 12 yards a catch. 5. One of them was Cody White, who had 1 catch. It was a 60-yard touchdown. And on that particular play, Trey Amos had just gone in the locker room, had just come back. And if you watch the replay, he's hobbling, right? So I think he got caught in a very difficult situation back on the field. Outside of that, the explosive plays, 13.8 yards per pass attempt. That's unacceptable.
Is that good?
I mean, that's if you're Seattle, that's good. That's like all-time offense if you were to like come anywhere near consistently doing something like that. And actually, this year, Darnold came in most yards per pass attempt at 9.1. So they were hitting all these big plays, mainly to Smith and Jigba. So they had the capability of doing it, but they did it with everybody this time. It wasn't just number 11. It was everybody.
Well, part of that is quarterback having time enough to get those deep shots. The 60-yarder, obviously, that's going to jack up those yards per play. And Trey had bad eyes on that play, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming in out of injury, but he had bad eyes. And, but it's, hey, they go play action. You think, okay, they've been running the ball. I'm going to come up, try to stop the run. And Trey's been excellent this year. So I'm not being critical of him, but, I mean, he had bad eyes. So he
I don't know if it's criticism, it's just an observation, really. You know what I'm saying?
It's not
talking about like problems and solutions.
If you got to understand, am I a run first defender or am I a pass first defender? So when you're a run first defender, you can come up and try to stop that run play. But if you're a pass first defender, you got to stay deep until you know that ball is being run. I played cover 2 a lot of my career. I could know that a run is about to happen, but I could not just go up there because I had to make sure I got deep responsibility down the middle. And they go play action, and I'm trying to run in there and make a tackle at the line of scrimmage, and we're getting hit down the middle of the field. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So it's just a matter of, that's the whole part of everybody doing their job, play in and play out.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Owens on the touchdown has a very similar kind of thing. Like, he's in man coverage on the tight end. He gets a little bit nosy in the backfield. He's able to recover because he's a good athlete and he's long. But that's been a little bit of a bugaboo this entire year. I think back to the Green Bay game. And the Green Bay did a great job of this, right? Like, we're going to sell run. Tight end's going to block out. That safety has to fit the C gap. He's also in man coverage on the tight end. The tight end leaks out to the flat. Like, that's a play. I remember Kyle put that in here to beat that coverage that they were running, And so some of this it's hard. Football is a hard game, but I do think that, kind of being about your work, like you're talking about, handling the main thing first, like triaging the things that are important. Like, what's my number? So when I'm coaching tight ends for the draft and stuff, and they don't really know a lot of run scheme, I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen on this play? What's the absolute worst thing? And then they're like, X, Y, Z. And I'm like, we'll take that away first, and then we'll build our technique off the rest of it. And I think sometimes, like, when you're watching, you're like, man, like they're trying to take everything away, as opposed to being about that main thing first and foremost, which is, again, it's a tough sport. It's a tough thing to do, and I couldn't do it, but that's why they get paid the big bucks.
All right, let's get into the offense a little bit here. First half, Jayden Daniels pressured career-high 51% of the dropbacks. It's a very active front, very good front. Leonard Williams had a terrific year. Byron Murphy, terrific year. They're very fast with a number of the edge rushers. Mafe doesn't have a lot of sacks, but he seems to be in the backfield consistently. And Wusu is constantly, I think he's got 5 sacks.
Good job on the name, Bram. Crushing it.
5 sacks over the last 5 weeks.
Derek Hall too, right?
Yeah.
Derek Hall? Is that
Derek Hall.
Yeah.
Hall, yep. Even their backup, Jaron Reed's had a very nice season for them. They're very good up front. But this reminded me week 1, Jayden's first game, Tampa, where he was almost forced to vacate the pocket immediately, constantly, because of the pressure packages, and they were getting there consistently last night.
Yeah, but it was so, I understand the comparison, but it was so different because of their ability to do it with 4 most of the time,
exactly.
right? And so versus Tampa Bay, he's able to scramble, and he's just in these incredible voids created by the man-to-man coverage behind it or the soft zone coverage you have to play when you're blitzing 5 or 6 guys. Here it's 4 guys are rushing, and then there's a spy, and then there's a cook player, and he's got to navigate all these different people. And it just, someone asked me, why can't he scramble for 15 yards like he used to? And I'm like, there are people in the way.
Right.
There are people
with
standing
with eyes on him.
Right. And so I think the amount of pressure, but the pressure is one thing. Fletch, you watched the film this morning, right?
I did.
The coverage contour in the back end of that thing was mind-blowing to me. There are times, more times than I care to count, where it's just there is nobody open. The concept is completely blanketed, and it's what's the quarterback supposed to do? And I think that was the thing that was so incredibly amazing about the Seattle defense. It's you very rarely see people cover that way in the back end.
Nah, you're spot on. I thought.
Thanks, Fletch.
Yeah, you're spot on. I'll say this. I thought we struggled to handle the twist in the games that the front 4 of the Seattle Seahawks defensive line ran. So they did a great job with movement and running, whether it was a TE game, ET game, and ended up having a free rudder to Jayden Daniels where he has to bail out of the pocket or try to scramble, make things happen. They also, with their overload simulated pressures or true overload blitzes,
those are pretty sweet too.
They did a great job of scheming up pressure as well and beating the protection that we had. And, where it's a guy running right for scot-free at Jayden and, oh, shoot, I'm waiting on this receiver to come open, but I got this guy in front of me. I just got to get it out of there on the interception he threw. They sent a corner on a blitz. And I don't know about Logan, you'll have to tell me this. They sent the linebacker and the corner, so McNichols takes the linebacker.
Yeah.
Is the corner in the count for anybody?
So depending on how they coach their 6-man protections, with Kyle, you would always push through to the widest rusher, and the back would take the A gap. So technically, he would be in the count. But some people book the widest rusher. It just depends on what your flavor is, in terms of the rush pattern. So on that one,
so they had a nose tackle in the A gap.
Yeah.
And then you had a linebacker blitz through the B. So the center, Cosme and Biotis, they took the A-gap rusher. McNichols picks up the linebacker rushing through the B. Defensive end is picked up by Connerly on the outside. And then you got a corner who's scot-free, and it was I forgot the down and distance on the play, but Jay is I'm holding, but there's nobody, there's not a hot route I can throw to. And the yardage, I think, may have been 3rd and 13. So there's,
and I think like you said on the interception, I feel like he's trying to throw that away too.
He was trying to. He couldn't get it enough on it because of the pressure.
And one of the things coming into the game, and one of the things we talked about on the film breakdown show, Jason and I, was just they are really good. McDonald is really good at finding ways to break your protection rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
To mess with your timings. If you're not going to count this guy in, we'll hold him at this depth and we'll run him down the A gap. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to count him. And I think getting into third down, you could feel it after the first drive. It was they were locked in. And again, that's where the bye week becomes so advantageous for them. A team that schemes up concept the way that they do, you could tell they understood from a zone perspective how to match certain concept, from a man perspective, what they needed to take away. And then on third down, they had a feel, man, for where they needed to be from a rush standpoint. And that's part of it, but also like the 4-man rush was really good too. So that team was good. That front was really good. But I was just kind of amazed with just how few answers there were. Like there are times where you're kind of pausing the clip. There's a guy running down the pipe and you're like, could Jayden just throw this to grass and hope that he can get the ball there? And then I kind of had to pull myself back and be like, that would be the craziest play of all time. Is that a realistic expectation for him to do down and down? And he did some amazing stuff. And again, I think he made really good decisions, but like just the level of detail that they force you to play at offensively, I thought kudos to Seattle. But yeah, it was very impressive.
Yeah, we from an offensive line protection when they were just rushing 4, we got to be able to handle that better.
Yeah,
we have to.
And again, some of that is just like, like Cosme and Connerly playing together for the first time. You feel that a little bit sometimes when they're out there. Sometimes you feel Chris Paul, who's had a great year, getting a little aggressive on those sets, so they're on different levels. And that happens. That's like one of the things that's why games and twists are really hard to block, is because it requires 2 guys to see it the same way. I remember talking to Morgan Moses when he was here with Brandon Sheriff. And I said, like, how important is it to have a guard that you can trust? He's like, I can set a specific way because I know where he's going to be. And so like when you're still building that, and I think it's important to remember, like Tunsil and Chris Paul haven't played a lot together. Right. And so they're still working through some of that stuff. So people say, oh, this offensive line should be really cohesive and established, but it takes a long time to build those relationships and that familiarity where 5 dudes are seeing it the same way. So again, like,
I agree.
Again, kudos to Seattle. I think that's a great point, Fletch, but I think that's just some good context there too. I have to remind myself when I'm watching the film, I'm like, why does it look like this? It's like, oh, well, these guys have had, maybe 100 reps together, 200 reps together.
Not thousands.
Yeah, right. And thousands, like, think about Brandon Sheriff and Morgan Moses. They played together for 4 years straight. Like, think about the amount of time and film and time on task they spent together. It's unbelievable. So anyway, yeah, I just think it's kudos to Seattle for sure.
All right, let me ask you about the injuries. Terry was out again. You had talked about just not finding anybody down the field with any kind of separation. Over the last few weeks, how much is all of that kind of playing into what's going on with the offense, that the injuries have mounted on them and the passing game is lacking explosive ability?
So I think I was thinking about this last night, and I just kind of like try to take a step back and look at it, Fletch and Bram. And one of the things that jumped out to me was like, you came into the season with a certain view of what the offense and the defense, quite frankly, was going to be this year. Injuries have changed the landscape of what that looks like. And so now I think it's really challenging because you've banked all these reps with these concepts, with these runs, but do you currently have the people in-house that can do that anymore, right? And that becomes like a huge issue, because then are you saying we need to do a schematic overhaul to accommodate all the injuries? Like, this is what we've been good at. This is what we've gotten reps at. And I think that's something that...
they kind of did early. I mean, I didn't have on my bingo card Trent Scott being on the field a million times in a jumbo package early in the season because of injuries, and they started doing that.
But they did do a little bit of that last year. So that wasn't totally outside the realm of possibility. They did some stuff in terms of, kind of those gap scheme runs within there. That's kind of part of their fabric. But in terms of like, this is a spread them out, win one-on-one offense where we're kind of playing isolation basketball, pick our best matchup. Yeah. And now we don't have people that can do that at a high level. It's like, now how do we create separation, scheme up open opportunities? It's shifted the paradigm of the offense in a way that is really hard schematically to negotiate.
Yeah, you definitely there's a lot more pressure on the play caller and also the offensive coaches.
Offensive design.
When it comes to the game plan, from a game plan standpoint, defense is going to play you different when you got Terry McLaurin as opposed to whoever else, and or Noah Brown or whatever. And those guys also can make Terry over the last 7 since he's been in the league. He was first in contested catches. In terms of making contested catches. So you lose that element of a guy who can go out and make a play one-on-one for you. I know a Brown who can make a play for you. You got Debo running he's actually do different things now than if you got Noah and Terry on the field with them. Zach Ertz now, a lot of times he's the number one target on some of these concepts or some of these downs and distance because of, he's the most reliable one right now. So defenses understand that, they're more than likely going to be going to Zach a lot in this situation.
Zach's
let's take
getting
him away.
they're bracketing Zach in certain situations. You know what I mean? Like he's getting a double team on third down. Like that's wild. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, we talked about statistical regression. They were third last year in explosive plays over 50 yards.
Yeah.
And I went back and watched that cut up. You know who's in a lot of those cut ups is our guy Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
And think about what that does for your offense. That's a touchdown a week, probably 2 touchdowns a week, just because of the explosiveness it gives you. And again, I'm not saying they were the most explosive offense, but they were the third most explosive on 50 plus
And
plays.
think about this: how many times did you check it down to Austin Eckler, and he
broke
makes
some
a play,
up, screens,
broke tackles, and all that. So there is a difference. The injuries have impacted this team drastically, especially on the offensive side of the ball. However, with that being said, and we're not making excuses. We're telling you what the reality is.
Yeah.
But you have to figure out a way with the pieces that we have to still manufacture yardage, manufacture points. It's just going, like we talked, the margin of error is so much smaller. Can't have self-inflicted ones. You can't have the penalties to put you behind the chains, behind the sticks in a certain stuff. We have to. Maybe you have to lean a little bit more on the power run game. 3 yards in a cloud of dust might be the way to go on first and second down to get you to 3rd and 3. That may be a little bit more of just a change in philosophy.
And that's what I think. It's a great point, Fletch. It's like, does Cliff have to kind of go back and say, like, let's kind of scrap all this? What are we good at now? I look at like what the 49ers did, right, or are doing. They're really banged up on offense. They're really banged up on defense. But what are they doing that's different than Washington? They're playing really good complementary football. The defense is not playing great, but they're not giving up big explosive plays, and they're keeping the offense in it. The offense is saying, what are we good at now? We're good at getting the ball to Christian McCaffrey as many times as we can. That guy's getting like 30 touches a game. Pass. And so they've found something that keeps them afloat until they get healthy. And what is that thing here? And it's
what is that thing
with Christian McCaffrey? It's easy because it's like that's the best running back in football. Let's get him as many touches as possible. Here, it's like we've got a bunch of young runners, we've got a bunch of young, inexperienced playmakers on the outside. We got a guy in Zach Ertz who's a good player, but definitely not in the twilight of his career. And you kind of say like it's going to have to be by committee. But how do we maximize all these skill sets to offset Terry McLaurin? I think that's where I go back to what Fletcher's talking about. Does it need to be a perspective shift to maximize these players? And
I think it does,
but
that's my opinion.
But as you know, Fletch, like that is so hard to do. It's like when you get who's your favorite defensive coordinator? What's his name here? Blitz guy,
Greg
Williams, right? Like he is a 2-man blitzing, get after your butt type of defensive coordinator, and all of a sudden it's like you can't do that anymore, even though that's what you know and do so well.
We did. So it's funny that you mentioned that. Well, not funny. I'm glad you mentioned that. So we play the New England Patriots. I was thinking about, man, have I been in a game like last night where the score is so out of whack and we can't get anything going? Offensively, can't stop anybody defensively. Yes, I was in a game 2007.
Also, weren't you in the Philly game too? Were you there for that one?
I don't remember that.
You blocked that one out?
Yeah. Let me finish my story. We go to New England. I know you remember this, Bram. We lose 52-7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At one point, I think we're down 52-0.
This was the game where the media complained that Bill Belichick was running up the score on Joe Gates.
Yes.
Oh, really?
And here's the deal.
That's rough.
So we went into that game. We were down 2 of our top 4 corners, and then Carlos Rogers got injured in that game, early in that game. So now we're down 3 of our top corners, and we're going against the 07 Patriots I mean, they were putting up 35 on everybody.
16-0.
Yeah.
So we went into the game. We were going to play a lot more man-to-man because we had some guys that can do it. We got Sean Taylor back there, free safety. Now we're down to a bunch of backup corners. We had to play cover 2 the whole game.
And you're not good at it.
We were good at it, but we weren't that good.
But you haven't like majored in it though, you know what I'm saying? It's like
we Tom Brady shredded us in cover 2 because he'd been going against the Colts for so long.
Yeah.
Most quarterbacks or teams we could have got away with, we could have survived.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have put up 52 on us. Maybe they put up 30.
Yeah.
And we get some stuff from the offense.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was look here, get you the move and just come to the check down or element on this. and we weren't able to get pressure on the quarterback. So I've been in the game like that. But my point was, it's hard to switch, especially we had to do it in game, switch your philosophy. But we did switch and ended up making the playoffs that season. We went on a 4-game winning streak. We had to tweak some things from a philosophical standpoint, offensively and defensively.
And I'm saying, like, it's hard, and it's really hard, but you can do it. And I think that, that's the one thing, like, fans say, oh, like, are you still optimistic? Obviously my expectations have changed, but I look at the guys on that side of the ball. There's some smart, innovative dudes over there, and I think they can get it done. It's going to take a lot from them. And I think that's where it's like, as the playmakers start to dwindle, the difficulty for the coaches just ratchets up. Everybody's got to kind of pull their best out.
It's time to go smash mouth, man.
Dude, you wanted to go smash mouth week 1.
Hey,
so.
It's time to go smash mouth.
How would your son say about that? You would not say that.
My son couldn't play for me if he ain't love smash mouth. No, I'm serious, but again, I'm just looking at it like...
His son plays receiver, by the way. I'm
just looking at it like this. How can you shorten the game? How can you minimize?
Absolutely.
How can you minimize hits on a quarterback? And not everybody wants to play physical football. We got some dudes up front that can run block. It might be a situation here. I know we went to a lot of 3 tight end personnel. Heck, we might have to go 4 tight ends in the game and a running back. This what time it is. This is the time of we're about to beat you up. We're gonna shorten this game. We're going to see, can you handle this for 60 minutes? We're going to be in a bunch of 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s. That's what it has to be. Defensively, we're going to go to some bend, don't break. But you got to execute this you got to be exact and precise. We can't have busts. We can't have communication breakdowns. We got to tackle well. Everybody has if there's an edge that needs to be set the edge and set it hard. That's how we're going to win some football games. It has to be a philosophical shift. And then within that, you'll mix in some play actions. Obviously, you're going to have your 3rd down package.
A little juiced
we're
up
going to have to scheme up some stuff a little bit more, scheme up some guys open. It can be done. It can be done.
I don't know if I've ever been more fired up on this show than when you said set an edge and set it hard. There's something about that that just gets me like juiced. Just like the physical violence of what that looks like. Because I was supposed to stretch the edge. So when someone wants to set if there's something to it.
Fit, tackle, turnbacks. And get some turnovers.
I mean, yeah. What you got, Bram?
So they did end up running for about 150-something yards last night, which is overshadowed by what the score was and all that stuff. And we were talking about pregame, how do they fix the run? Probably wrong team last night to probably try to do it against number 1 rush defense. And when I talked to Dan Quinn last week, and I talked to you on the pregame show about this, where he had said his biggest issue with the run game recently was the targeting of the blockers. Yeah. So if they're going to go in this direction, and it seems like they almost have to, right? Jayden Daniels, we'll get prognosis. I'll talk about him in a moment, but like we'll get a prognosis on him soon about how long he's going to be missing time. But clearly, he's not playing this week. Like that's not happening. So they are back to Mariota. It does feel like they do need to run the ball. So if they're going to have really any shot, they got to run the ball really well. So what have you seen and what Dan Quinn said about where the misfits were on the run game and how they can get that going again?
Yeah. So when I was here in Washington, like we were a run first team. Like that was kind of like Mike got up in front of the thing and said, we are a run first team. And the other thing he said was like, when you are a run first team, you don't just dabble in it. You don't just talk about it. You'll live it. And I think that's when you look at teams around the league that are really good, teams in college, teams in high school that are really good at running the football, they understand, I want to say, everything that can happen, right? So like, for example, we were an outside zone team when I got here. So we would run outside zone versus every pressure, every stunt, every fit. And we had calls for every little, oh, he's here, we're going to make this call. He's a little bit wider, we're going to make this call. I'm going to take this by myself. You're going to be here. And we had a call for that. And when this guy got here, and people like, that seems crazy. But good teams that run the football a lot, like when I was here with Bill Callahan, we ran duo. And everyone says, oh, duos, double teams. It's the easiest play, and it's the easiest run to teach in football. I'm not kidding you. We had about 20 different calls just based on who was going to get to a high leg, who was going to overtake, who was going to push across. And were we good at running duo? Hell yeah, we were going to run in duo. And so like when you look at this and what Dan's talking about is like, can we have that level of detail? Like when we're talking defenses and fit and runs, can we have that level of detail offensively? Like when you're in a combination on a duo block, let's just talk about that, tight end and tackle, and it's a 5 technique. As a tight end, I got to be a little bit urgent because the tackle's not going to get a piece, especially when the linebacker's plussed over a little bit. So like understanding that spacing is important. Also understanding who's in the run fit is important. So when they say like, we got to get better at running the football, it is a comprehensive, time-intensive, technically intensive thing. And I think that's why a lot of teams in college, in high school, and in the NFL move away from it because it takes a lot of time at practice to get good at it, and you've lost some of that in the offseason. So if you want to do it, you say, hey, these are our 4 runs. These are our 10 formations we're running out of. Let's just rep this till we can't make a mistake, and let's put our neck rolls on, get after it. And these are our play action shots, and go let it rip. But it's hard. In a lot of ways, it's harder than the pass game where it's like, hey, we're going to run this versus cover 2. You're going to break. It's less technical. And so I think that's why people lean into the pass game stuff. But if you want to be good at it, you got to embrace it with both arms and really, really like own it. I'm sure it's like fit and runs. I would imagine defensively, like you really got to be locked in on it.
Yeah. You spend extra time on it. You're going to spend extra. You might have to add an extra.
So I got juiced up there.
You
Fletch.
might have to add an extra walkthrough. It may have to be some player-led meetings to make sure in the film in terms of, hey, what is offensive line, the tight ends, making sure you're seeing it. Even the back, making sure they're all seeing it together. But you mentioned him running for 156 yards. I thought Chris Rodriguez came in there. He was physical, ran downhill. So it's in us. It's in us to be able to run the ball like that, but it has to be just, say, a commitment to we're going to run it. It might be power. It's going to still be your counter trade, your counter O, your power O. That's going to have to, that might be some draws, stuff like that, where this is going to be the world that we live in and some duo and all that type of stuff. But as you mentioned, this has to be the world. You got to truly embrace it.
Because I do think, like, in terms of solutions that Fletch was talking about. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. You look way better than Fred.
Yes, I do.
I know. We all know that.
Yes.
But in order to win these types of games with this type of depleted group in the perimeter, like you got to find ways to possess the ball. And so, is it running the football? What are our great third down plays? Can we maximize or feature someone in that? Can we stay out of third and long? And that's where, again, like this run first approach is good because it does shorten the game. But it's also relying on the defense holding up there on the bargain too. So it really becomes like this this total team
complement, and then special teams coming, doing their part. It's a true, has to be complementary football at its highest level.
All right, then on defense, then your solution is what? If you're saying the offense turns into kind of a power run offense or a run first offense and whatever, and I wouldn't remove anything that zone read with Mariota. He's amazing at it. So there's a lot of different ways that they could probably run the ball here moving forward. But defensively, what are you looking at? Because that was really
it's going to have to be a kind of a bend don't break type of deal where you're going to force
What do you mean by that, Fletch?
Between the 20s and 20s, like they're going to move the ball against us. But when we get in that red zone area, we're going to have to tighten it down. We're going to have to force them to kick field goals, things like that. So we're going to have to be great at red zone defense, but we might have to go to a lot more two shell, like true two shell. It's gonna be a hairy way. They're gonna convert a lot of third down. They might get 5 yards on a run on the first down play or 7 on a first down run. So they'll be in a lot of 2nd and 5, 2nd and 3s, things like that. But we're gonna have to force them to make a mistake. We're gonna have to figure out a way from a schematic standpoint, when we pressure, how can we figure out ways to manipulate other teams' pass protection?
Yep.
Do we start doing a little bit more creative stuff from a pass rush standpoint or a blitz standpoint? Maybe we start blitzing the corner. Maybe we start bringing 4-week, things like that. So and when you're bringing that playing zone behind us still, so you got eyes on the quarterback, you got eyes. You're not relying on one-on-one tackles. You got more guys being able to rally to the football. Tips and overthrows. Maybe you got more of a guys ready to react to that as opposed to bringing pressure, blitzing, and playing man-to-man coverage. No, we can still play some soft zones behind it and we're gonna scheme up these types of deals. We're gonna do a little bit more simulated pressure, and we were great at it. When Bobby had the sacks, I don't remember the team. Those were simulated pressures.
Yeah.
It was just a 4-man rush where people thought it was a blitz. We're bringing him and we're dropping back playing coverage. So we're gonna have to get back to doing that, but we got to do it at a high level. We got to, within that, it still has to be fine-tuning the details. Like you can't have these huge voids between the corner and the hook player if we're playing cover 2 to where, we're in the cover 2 as a safe defense, but also there's a little bit deeper. You might have to get a little bit wider on this cover 2. So force that quarterback to have to squeeze that ball into a tighter window. Being exact on your drops and your landmarks and safeties, and making sure you're sinking on a corner route. Force them to throw that shallow, that short route, and we'll rally up and make a tackle. Don't give up that's how you keep the explosives down.
Yeah, and I think a good example of that would be like the Cincinnati Bengals game last year. You know, when like Joe Burrow's dealing and they drive length of the field and kick a field goal, and you just stay a couple points ahead of them because you're making touchdowns, you're possessing the football. But even when
get a couple turnovers, figure out a way.
And even when you're talking through that, though, Fletch, like I think about the level of detail required for some of these zone coverages. You know, in terms of who we're reading. Like, where are our eyes? If this guy pushes vertical, what are we doing? And like, it takes time. And I think
we got to spend the time.
No, but I'm saying, like, you talk about like the run game stuff. It's very similar. Like all of these changes and transitions. It doesn't just like I think like people that I've talked to, like, why don't they just do this? It's like if you haven't put the equity in it, it takes a couple of weeks sometimes to get that worked out. And so like I think that's where I'd say like these are all good in theory. And we can talk about it and you can put it on the whiteboard as ideas, but the execution of it is where it becomes challenging. Absolutely. I always find. And that's why, you know, these guys get paid lots of money to figure it out. So.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Jayden Daniels. So he gets injured, suffers an elbow injury. We're waiting. We haven't heard from Dan Quinn yet. And so we don't know the prognosis for him yet. But it is believed he dislocated his elbow, and hopefully the prognosis will be pretty good. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. The score was 38-7, and he was out on the field. So let me just get your thoughts just initially of him being out there. I think I'll just say this up front. That's a fluky injury that occurred last night. It is not his hamstring. It is not his knee. So that is a rare occurrence that something like that happens, and it's an unfortunate thing, obviously, for him and for the team. But I just want to because obviously everybody's talking about it, that he was out there in a game that was over. So what are your general thoughts on the unfortunate injury that he took last night?
I mean, obviously it's unfortunate. You don't want him to get hurt. But like my thing is, again, like this is probably old hard-o football in me a little bit. But like people were talking about him not playing in preseason. He's missed 3 games this year. I think you just sometimes need to get a guy reps, and he's competitive and he wants to be in there. And so like I know everyone wants to play like Monday morning quarterback, shouldn't have been in, but I think in those moments, like you can learn a lot about a kid. He can get a lot better. He can see a defense better. They had their backup defensive line in at that moment. Yeah. So like he was kind of getting a feel for the coverages and where the ball should go. And I just think for a season that's been limited in terms of repetitions because of injuries, I thought this is a good opportunity for him to get some practice, quote unquote, in this game. But again, like there's no right solution. There's no counterfactual to say like if he comes out, whatever. But it's a violent sport. People get hurt, and it's unfortunate, no doubt, and I feel terrible for him. But like, I don't really have a terrible issue.
There's hindsight is 20/20. Like DQ, I don't think anybody who's listened to Dan Quinn or met Dan Quinn would think that he does not care deeply about his players. He's going to do everything to ensure his players are, and he cares so much about their well-being. How many times have he kept guys out of games or, hey, no, I don't think it's right. We're going to hold him another week. Kept him out of practice, things like that. So he's doing what he did what he felt like was the right thing to do for a guy who's missed three football games, for a guy who is extremely competitive. He wants to be out there playing football. I mean, when you're a football player, you want to play football. Regardless of the score, you want to play. That's just how it is. Now, you say, hey, this is a franchise quarterback. The game's out of whack. We're not going to win it. Again, you want to be out there fighting to the end. And hindsight 2020, sure, DQ would have pulled him out of the game, or he would have, Jayden, hand that football off. You're no longer running, you hand this ball off. So that's just what it is. You don't get better playing football on the sideline. Glad it's not his right elbow. I don't know what's the prognosis, how long these things take, but it's just been we've been snake bitten, man. I mean, from an injuries bug standpoint, we've just had buzzer's luck.
That happens sometimes.
It just happens like that sometimes.
Yeah, that's another part of the story from last year when you were talking about earlier. John Allen did miss the majority of the year when he suffered his injury. That was about it.
Yeah.
Like major injuries that occurred to the team. So they were winning a lot. They were converting at a almost historic pace on fourth downs. They were as clutch as you could come. And they also didn't have a lot of injuries. And this has turned this year. And it started early where their offense never practiced together once since the day one of camp. And here we are heading into week 10. And it looks like it never will the whole time for the whole season.
I was 2 weeks ago, we're getting ready to play Dallas or Kansas City or whatever. And I'm prepping for the game, and on my notes, I wrote, go through it and grow through it. And this was just, we were going through a tough stretch, and we continue to go through that tough stretch, but we also have to grow through this as a team, as a player, as individuals, as coaches. So when we come out on the other side of this, we're building up some different type of calluses as a football team, as a coaching staff, as players. Last year, it was all, man, bells and whistles and rainbows and lollipops and all that. As good as it was a year ago, it's as bad as it is right now.
Yeah.
But we have to go through this and grow through this. The experiences that a Jalen Lane is getting right now, that Luke was getting, Luke McCaffrey before he got injured, Josh Connolly and all the different things that he's growing, baptism by fire with all the pass rushes that he's at. We're growing. We're going through some tough moments, but we're going to grow through this stuff. Adversity is here, but we're going to come out on the other side of this. We just have to continue to work each and every day until this thing flips.
You know, what's funny is, like, for all you guys at home watching, like, that's something that he would have said when we were playing. Like, when he's in front of the team, something very similar to that. Like, it's not, and it took me back to, like, 2010, 11, 12, 13, when I was like, you're having bad things happen, and, like, good leadership will step up in those moments and say, like, hey, like, we have to keep going. We have to keep working. There's no, like, so fans say, like, what's the solution? People are like, what are we going to do? It's like, I don't know what we're going to do, but what they're going to do is put one foot in front of the other and approach each day and try to get better and try to keep growing, because that's the only thing when you're in those seats over there that you can do. And so, like, when you were talking like that, it took me back to, like, playing a little bit, and just kind of that mindset is so important.
I mean, I hate to preview the next game because it's Detroit, and that was the last magic moment of 2024, was going up there and knocking off a 1 seed in a playoff game and heading to the NFC Championship. I'm sure their players are going to be hearing about it. They're coming off a loss, and
they've had some adversity this year.
They have, though. And they also they're going to be hearing about it from what happened a year ago for sure. So this is another tough one. And let's see, Seattle was the 4th top 7 offense we have faced this year. This will be the 5th coming up here. So the defense, whatever your solutions are, they got 6 days to figure it out, because this is a tough task again this weekend.
Put your mouthpiece in, bro.
Everybody has players and playmakers, and every game there's some type of challenge. It's just that's the nature of this business. That's the sport we play. On every given play, somebody's going to draw the short stick. It might be, hey, you got coverage against this dude 1-on-1, and we can't help you because we got to go help over here. You got to hold up your end of that bargain, or you got this elite pass rusher, and we can't help you on this particular play because we got to get 5 out because of the concept that we're trying to run. I just need you to get your job done. And that's football. That's life in this sport.
Yeah.
But you have to put in the work. And another thing you have to do, you have to ignore the noise. If they're not in those meeting rooms with you in that building and putting in the work and with you, ignore it. Because everybody will tell you how terrible you are. And they'll tell you how great you are. You got to ignore it both.
Yeah.
Both. That's how it is.
Preach, man. Yeah, Detroit, good football team. They all got playmakers. That's one of the more playmaker-dense rosters in football, But they've lost games they should have won. They're kind of dealing with some brain drain at the moment. They haven't looked as efficient at points this year. So maybe there's a crack in the armor you feel good about. But like Fletch said, man, like no one's going to feel sorry for you. No one's going to feel bad for you. You got to put the boxing gloves on, put the helmet on, and go get that thing.
They're not canceling that game.
Yeah.
They're not canceling the rest of the season.
Yeah, you got to go figure it out.
I think I said to Dan Quinn, I asked him about the injuries a couple weeks ago, and he goes, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
I remember when I was mentoring young players in Atlanta, and they were like, "Oh, I've got this like my hamstring's a little bit tight, or I didn't study the film, or I got the playbook yesterday," and I was like, "You want to know something crazy? Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Like you got to get ready. You got to find a way, despite all the adversity, despite all the nonsense, to get there." And I know those people in that room feel that. Dan said it to you, obviously.
Yeah, he did.
And when you step between those white lines, the expectations are the same.
No matter who's out there.
Whether you're banged up, sore, you got problems going on at home, your dog ran away, whatever situation. No.
It's that bad? The dog ran away?
But it's true, though.
I mean, I would be distraught if my dogs ran away. I'm not going to lie. That probably would have been my first mixed game. I love my dogs. Man.
Really? Dude, I love when we do the pod and your dogs just yapping in the background.
Dude, but my point is, when you step between those white lines, and Logan, you play with me, and there's plenty of time. You see me throughout the week. barely able to, like, there's no way. How's this guy go play?
I remember, Fletch, you being in a walking boot, watching. You couldn't even do the walkthrough.
I was sitting on the cooler.
Yeah, sitting on the cooler watching walkthrough, and I was like, how the hell is he going to be ready to go?
But when I stepped on that football field, I knew the expectations that the fans had, my teammates had. So nobody wants to hear, hey, London, you got a sprained ankle or back. Nobody can. If you step between these white lines, you better be ready to perform.
Yeah, and Detroit's about to have a rugby match with us, according to you, because that's going to be our offense next week against them.
Logan, have you ever gone 4 tight ends in a game in a run?
Oh yeah, man. It's beautiful.
Oh, that would be beautiful football.
Yeah, and the great thing, I've always had this fantasy of doing. It's hard to find 4 guys that can do that, like play ball like that. But you can get into empty, you can get into tight, you can do all sorts of stuff. So I'm saying,
so let's imagine this.
This is your fantasy?
Oh, dude, I think about this all the time.
So let's look at this. Okay. We got Bates in the game.
Yeah.
We got Senate. We got Ertz.
Scott.
Yankoff is injured, so
Trent
either
Scott.
Trent Scott or Brandon Coleman as our fourth.
He could be your Y, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then we can move.
And then we also, so now they're going to have to match personnel to
That's
that.
what I'm saying. Let's go.
So it's almost like the goal line.
Yeah.
And then we explode. And now we got to match up. We're gonna get a linebacker on Ertz.
Yeah, which is like that's why it's a fantasy of mine.
We're gonna get a linebacker on.
You should see my notebooks.
Senate.
I got it drawn out. I've been talking for years about this.
I didn't think we'd end the show sharing fantasies, but here we are. All right.
Peek behind the curtain.
That's right. All right. That'll do it for this edition of the Booth Review. We'll see you next week. Booth Review was filmed at the Big Bear AI Command Center studio. Big Bear AI offers mission-ready AI for a rapidly evolving world, proudly protecting the Washington Commanders and its fans.